Okay, so we're gonna move on. We got the part 16, 17, and 18 in the instructions. So we're gonna work on the B and C decks. You can see the drill I used earlier did not work. So I got a micro drill bit specifically made for these kind of projects. And I did an unboxing on this. If you want to check it out, you can look at it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to drill holes in order to put the strands in. And we're going to start with the B and C decks. Okay, so this is the smallest drill bit that I could get, and it's still a lot bigger than what was on the AMT micro drill. So I'm going to just have to live with this. You can see the holes that I put. Let's see, I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I put in 15 of them. It called for 30, but the bit was too large. So I'm going to insert the strands, glue them in place, and then later we'll be able to touch up the paint. So let's get right to it. Cement the main bridge dome. We had done that. Use the micro drill to carefully drill 30 holes in the main bridge at every window. We did the drilling. Bundle and tape 30 of the 7-inch fiber optic strands. So there's 15 holes, so we're going to need 15 of them. So we're going to start using them. Alright, what I'm going to do is I got a little bit of duct tape. Our friend Mr. Duct Tape. And it's going to help hold it in position so we can pass the strands through. And just like we've been doing up to this point, I'm going to be using the Plastruct bond beam to secure the strands in place. Okay, so we got all of the fiber optic strands in, and because this drill bit spins so fast and this part on the top is really thick, it was actually melting it back, and it proved to be a little bit of a challenge. Luckily the top of the hull is going to be thinner, so it won't be as thick to drill through, but you can see the holes are larger, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do now is, in addition to putting the Plastruct bonding on it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the holes with a drop of super glue as well, just to make sure that they stay in place. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to wait for these to dry. All the super glue is going to dry, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the holes with a little bit of paint, and we're going to paint it to make it nice again, and then we'll tie off the ends. So we're going to let that dry for now. In the meantime, you guys remember we have the top of the primary hull, and we have the shuttle bay doors that we had painted, and we had put the granite gray. So this is ready now to put onto the top, and you can see it's going to go on just like that. Matter of fact, that looks good to glue into place right now. So what I'll do is I'll use some of the super glue, and we'll just glue it into place. And what we'll do is we'll let this dry. And when that's dry, what we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole to pass the fiber optics through. So we're going to go right about here. There we are. That should be big enough to pass the fiber optic cables that are bundled in. See from the bottom, it's all set to go, and hopefully you can see there's going to be no light leak from the shuttle bay doors. I had a chance to dry a little bit, so we got to wait for this to dry. And when this is dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in and touch in some of the paint. Although I'm wondering if I should put it on top of the bridge section first and then paint it. Maybe that's what I'm going to do. You can see all the fiber optic cables. Let me take it off the show you guys what it looks like underneath. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah, we're gonna get them like that, and it looks like can get up to there. So let's go ahead and tape this. Alright, so kind of got them sort of kind of bundled together. And you can see it ends right about there, so that's where we would cut it. So let's get this in. You see how it'll kind of lock into place. You see all the cables coming out from the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is really secure in place. I'm going to try to push it down. Make sure it's kind of even. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to super glue it. I'm not even going to try to use the model glue. I'm going to go right for the super glue. And I want to make sure that that's going to stay in place. You can see it'll kind of run down. And don't worry about the shiny spots. We'll touch it up with the paint. And then when we coat the whole thing, when we clear coat it, it'll be all set. It'll take care of everything. Everything will be blended in. It looks like the glue circled the entire area of the island, B and C decks around the bridge. So that looks good. So let's let that dry. And it looks like that was everything for part 16. And for part 17, we're going to drill a hole in the top of the upper main hull. We done that. Slip the bundle through the hole and cement the main bridge assembly in place. We did that. Bundle and tape 30 of the 14, 30 of the 10, and any remaining fiber optic strands together. So that's what we're going to do for the top of the main hull. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drill into the top so we can pass the fiber optic cable through. So let's see, how many did they say altogether? 30 and 30 of the 10. So 60. So we're going to do 60 of the windows. So I'm going to drill 60 holes. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass the fiber optic cable through. Okay, so I had to change the drill out. You can see the parts of B and C deck is pretty thick, and it was so there's no way to control the rotation speed. You can see it kind of melted the plastic around it. So hopefully we'll put a fresh one in and we'll go quicker, and that'll help with the drilling. Let's see if this works. Okay, so my batteries are just about dead. And like I said, all I did was I took one of the micro drills that I had gotten with this, and I cut the bit down. I pushed this in and I put super glue to hold it in place, and this actually worked best. So let's clean this off. Get all the shards out of there. And the smaller holes are so much better to put the strands through because they'll stay a lot more secure. And we don't have to touch them up with the paint like we do with the larger holes. You can see the larger holes, I'm gonna have to put a drop of paint to cover that. So what we're ready to do now is we're ready to start putting the fiber optics through to light the top of the primary hose. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it dry. And when it's dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put little drops of paint to fill in the gaps and to cover it up. And once this is dry, we'll move on and I'll show you guys what we're going to do next. So I'm going to show you all of the fiber optic strands that are coming out. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to touch it up with the paint, little drops of paint. So when this is all nice and dry and I feel it's safe to pick it up, because we don't want the strands coming out, and I'll show you guys. But in the meantime, we're going to paint. Alright, so it had a little bit of time to dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill in all these little holes from the drill. As you can see, I show you guys all of the cables underneath. Pretty crazy, right? And I hope the camera can pick them all up. But what we're going to do now is all of the larger drill areas, we're going to fill it in with some paint. So that'll make it a little more sturdy, and plus it'll look better. I'm using the Chalky Chicks. You guys can see the B and C decks look a little better, filled in with the paint. And the other areas on the starboard side, they had the larger drill holes. And I'll go around now and do touching up some of the smaller ones that need it. You can see like right over there. Alright guys, you can see how that looks. And for now, we're going to let this dry really well. And if it needs to, I'll put a little bit more of the drops on. But for now, we're going to let this dry. And I'm going to let this dry really good before I bundle up all of the cables underneath. Let me show you guys all the touch-ups. There's quite a few, and talk about just cutting it close. I just had enough for the fiber optic strands. I had ran out. I don't know if you guys can see all of them. There's not going to be a whole lot of windows lit, but it'll be enough to show you guys that the windows are lit. So again, when this is all nice and dry, I'll see if I need to put some more to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit more, if that'll be it. So we'll move on after it's dry. Okay, so we had some time to dry overnight. You can see all of the little fibers coming out, and the paint dried, and you can see the bottom on this mess. So what we got to do now is we got to bundle everything, and then we can connect it to the lower section of the primary hull. All right, let's see now. There, you guys can see, now we have the fiber optics from the upper saucer section bundled together. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put this aside, and we're going to bring over the bottom section. You guys remember we had already bundled these together. And what we're going to do is we're going to get all of them bundled, and they're all going to go into this one right here, this little cup. They're going to go into this. We're going to glue them into place in here, and you can see the little clips, and that's going to go into the cup. The first thing we got to do is we got to drill a hole in here. Put the drill. You guys can see, made it just a bit bigger so all the fiber optics can fit inside. And when we look ahead, let's see, we got to look ahead to section 19 of the instructions. As you can see, that's when the impulse engines go in. But you can see we're going to have to drill those because I decided to light them because I wanted them lit. So when we put the top section on, let's see, you can see how there's going to be no gaps. So what I got to do is I got to drill a hole or make a section where the bulbs can come through and illuminate the impulse engines, because you guys remember I did the I put in the lights. As you can see, we did the other side. So that was important to get the drill holes in, because that way there we can push through. And guys, I'll show you guys the lights. We can put the lights and push them in through the drill hole. Will they fit? Yep, they'll fit. So, first thing we got to do is we have to get the bundles all together and get them into the cap. Okay, so we got everything kind of sort of into the cup. We're going to maneuver the cup in. So what I need to do is I need to secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dab of super glue to keep the light in place. We're going to have to do the same thing for the other side. We're going to have to put the bulb through the hole that we drilled, and that's going to be for the impulse engine. So here is this one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use just a bit of crazy glue. Let me show you guys what the impulse engines are going to look like. See them right there. You know, I don't know why they put them blue, but they're going to be clear blue. And to keep true to the model, I'm going to keep the blue. We'll probably just touch up the outsides though. Okay, so you can see a lot of the filaments are lit. They're supposed to all be lit, but I guess some of them didn't connect, or they loosened up while putting them in to the primary hull. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue the top of the primary hull to the bottom of the primary hull. So I'm going to clamp the top section. So I've got the clamps, and I put an old towel that I put to the ends so it won't mark up the ship. Okay, so I clamped the intersection of where the primary hull meets and separates from the secondary hull. And it would have been so much better to be able to do the primary hull on its own and then glue it on. But doing the bottom part first and then putting it on, it doesn't line up as good as it would if it would just be made on its own. But when this is all dry, we'll unclamp it, and then I'm going to go around the entire saucer section and we're going to glue and clamp to make sure it stays in place. Okay, so that has had some time to dry, so let's take the clamps off. And I'm going to go around and glue the rest of the hull into place. Alright, so I put a line of glue around the entire sections where they meet, and I clamped the last two spots. So after it's dry, what I want to do is I want to test it out, make sure that everything is working, and then we can touch up with the paint as we need, and we can move on. But we're going to let this dry, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we take off the clamps. Alright, so it's had some time to dry, so I'm going to gently take off the clamps. You guys can see it's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a black line on the inside when we touch that up, and that'll be all set. What I want to do now is I'm going to take my little snips, where are they? And what I want to do is I want to snip off all of the fiber optic cables. And when they're all snipped off, we'll plug it in and we'll see what she looks like. There, I think that's all of them. So what we can do now is we can hook up the power supply and see what she looks like. As you can see, let's see if I can trim it just a little bit more on the top of on B deck. That looks pretty good. You guys, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not. Or the little points of light where B and C deck are around the bridge. You see the bottom. They're easier to see the trim. A couple more. Get them nice and trimmed down. Again, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the little points of light. So, this is where we're at right now. The primary hull is all set. It's glued in place. We have all of the fiber optic cables glued in place. We had the bundles. They're in the cup in the primary hull, so that's all set. All the lights are coming on that are supposed to be lit. And let me show you guys. We've got the lights for the impulse engines. So let's see how far ahead the impulse engines are going to be. So that's step 18, step 17, and step 16. So what we did was we worked off step 15. We did the bottom. We got all the fiber optic cables bundled and ready to put into the cup. Then we did the B and C decks. We drilled the holes, we ran the cables through, and we bundled them, ready to put them in. We put them into the primary hull. The top, we drilled out all the holes, we ran the fiber optic cables, and then we bundled everything together, and we put the fiber optic cables into the cup. And then we glued the top of the saucer section onto the bottom of the saucer section. So that's all set. Everything is done for now. We're ready to move on. And we're going to be moving on to step 19. So we're all ready to move on. So in the next video, we're going to be putting on and working on the impulse engines. You guys can see the impulse engines lit up on the bottom. And what I'll do is I'll take the camera down off of the tripod and I'll show you guys a little bit of a better angle of the lights. You see B and C decks. And again, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see the bottom that well or not. On the back, you guys can see the impulse engines on the bottom lit. And we got the impulse engines and the lights on the top that are going to be all set to be lit. So, in the next video, when we move on, we're going to be ready to move on to step, 19. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.